explain the two touchbacks that went to the 20? How does that happen?
Yeah, I mean, I would say credit to Santos. There's wind in the game, obviously, and when the ball's low like that, you know. Yeah, I would. The one that it was more of like a line drive, didn't hit the ground. I think it just kind of rose up on him a little bit. So.
What makes this Bills kickoff return unit so difficult? Look like they had a big impact on that game last week.
Yeah, those guys do a really good job. Taves has done a nice job with that unit. Obviously familiar with him. Was my coach here for 2 years. The returner is really good. I think he's got good vision. He's got good contact balance. He does an excellent job of attacking coverage downhill. Like I just said, good vision, and they got a good core unit. They got Andreessen, Williams, Franklin. Those guys are really good blockers, and have done a nice job for that group.
We've talked, since this new rule's come in about running backs, being effective in that.
Yeah.
Returning, and, Ray Davis is, obviously running back. As you look across the league, has that sort of borne out that the best return guys have been running backs, and why do you feel like?
Yeah, I think you're definitely seeing some of that for sure. Guys with vision I feel like are the guys that have been most effective on that unit throughout the league. So it plays similar to a run play, honestly, with some of the schematics that are happening.
We've been asking about kick coverage all
year.
It's probably the issue you just have so many young, unproven guys on that unit. You're kind of forced to use those players. I mean,
we're playing with the best guys available, but I do think that it comes down to when you're covering punts, kickoffs. It really does come down to like the fundamentals of the game: leveraging blocks, block destruction, shedding blocks, tackling. All those things factor, and I feel like the times where we've had issues is when we're not executing those necessary fundamentals of the game. We're not leveraging the ball well enough. Specifically, like the last 2 weeks, like on our kick side, we haven't done a great job of playing outside into the football. It's pretty basic principles that we haven't executed that well.
And you are such a great special teams player.
Thanks.
but seriously, so how frustrating is that? Because I'm sure these guys know what to do.
Like what we're coaching them to do. Yeah, it ultimately comes down to just the execution. Like you got to be able to execute when the bullets are flying. Look, it can be frustrating as a player and as a coach whenever you're not getting the results you want, but just gotta keep working and keep trying to improve and getting better at those things. And back to your point, yeah, we've had a good amount of younger players out there that haven't had as much experience. So, there's times where we've had to learn the hard way.
Grant always talks about how special teams is a lot of want to. Do you feel like there's enough want to on the unit?
Yeah, I think that there's want to. I do. I think that there's want to. I think that our guys have, and I'll say this: we haven't played nearly to our standard. That's clearly obvious. But I do think that the guys are trying. I do think that they're trying.
One of those fundamentals that you talked about that you think is hampering this team the most on the team unit?
I would honestly probably say just the two that I mentioned, just leveraging the ball and getting off of blocks. So I think we need to be able to shed more violently, to be able to get off of blocks. That happened in the Tennessee game. It happened last week. And then playing outside into the ball, not taking the easiest release. Taves used to actually say, don't take the river release, the release of least resistance. We're trying to coach that. So
Given Belichick a lot of credit, you played for him and
Yeah.
coached for him, but where does Tabor rank in the special teams community?
it was me and Tabes had a good run at it here for 2 years. That was his first year as a coordinator in 11, and then in 12, obviously his second season. But we had a really good relationship. We don't talk as often now, obviously, but we had a really good relationship. He trusted me quite a bit. I gave him a lot of input to what we did back then with calls and schemes and things like that, and I think he respected me for that. I think he's a really good football coach. Does a nice job in the return game, obviously. So
He had Cribbs those 2 years, and then Travis Benjamin, who ended up
yeah,
being pretty good too. Are some special teams coaches noted for a certain part of special teams? Like, this guy's always had good returners. This guy's always had blockers. Or
yeah. Well, so he was an assistant in Chicago before he came to us. So he was with Dave Tobe, who's in Kansas City. Tobe's obviously been known for his return game. Obviously, he had Hester in Chicago. He's had a number of really good returners in Kansas City. So I guess you could say that, he's kind of from that, like, Tobe tree.
Heard that Andre hit on Sunday, considering how cold it was.
Yeah.
How hard of a kick is that? And then just also, too, considering, what happened in week one, just, what have you seen from him, throughout the season, how he's bounced back from that?
Yeah, I mean, we were kind of like nearly at our max as far as like distance that we were able to hit from. So, really, I mean, credit him for the execution on the kick. Obviously, we get the hold down well, we protect, and just really good execution on the play. And in really cold temperatures, the ball definitely was not flying like it had been in previous weeks. And then for him to just be able to, bounce back after that first game, kind of like reset. He has had really good practice weeks. I feel like he has done a good job, throughout the season.
To the touchbacks real quick. Is that basically like how you coach that then? Like if it's a line drive type kick that's going to maybe be sort of harder to handle, are you just telling guys, let it go into the end zone, we'll take it at the 20?
No, not necessarily. I mean, we want to try to field every single ball possible. I will say that there are times where if the ball doesn't say the ball does hit the ground and you don't field it clean and it does end up rolling into the end zone, don't make a bad play worse, because then you can still get the touchback at the 20. But ideally, we want to field every ball if possible, and then obviously return it. It does affect the return when the ball gets to the ground. It's just less. There's more time that you have to sustain a block. There's more space for the coverage player to be able to run around. So the timing of the return doesn't really match up if the ball is on the ground and you don't get it clean. Now, if it hits the ground and you get it on like one hop, that's just less time that it's taking for the return. So, that everything impacts it. Now, the other thing that hurts too is like when the ball does hit the ground as a blocker, you don't really know how long the ball's on the ground for because you're not watching the returner like pick the ball up. So as you go back, as you're like seeing the returner, okay, the ball's on the ground. My eyes go back to my guy. Does he field it clean? Does he not? So there's some like gray area there as a blocker. You don't know how long. So we give our guys some things that they use in their technique. So. All right, guys. Thanks.
get it rolling, Dan.
I mean, when you kind of look back at Shedur's performance against Chicago, what was the thing that maybe in that game, I mean, for all the bad, maybe that you saw the positive step forward out of?
Yeah. Well, I mean, there were some explosive plays there. Like I thought the third down where he hit IB down the middle of the field, the drop was really good. The timing was good. That was a look that we kind of had prepped for, knowing how they were going to play. And just felt like there was a real improvement there on seeing the coverage, recognizing the timing that it needed to come out on and making that explosive. Had a good alert there on the post to IB versus 0, stayed in the pocket, threw it on time to a spot, getting hit. Evades the rush well, is able to extend. And, there's always positives to draw on. They don't always drive home results, but there's always little things within the game that you're going to have positives on and look to continue to build upon. And then, look, there's going to be ups and downs, and there's going to be things that you want to coach. That's certainly across the board for our players right now. So it's important to find those both positive reinforcement, things that you're doing well, and then find the areas that we need to continue to improve on. But he's been really good this week in terms of taking all that in and being excited to go out and continue to improve and continue to build upon the things that he's doing well for us right now.
Yesterday, a lot about his completion percentage. It sounds like it's a teaching point he's been given. What's the problem there? He's 20 points down from his college numbers. I know there's got to be a drop-off.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think it's different. There's a different level, right? And there's different types of throws you're being asked. I think for any young player, for any young quarterback, the adjustment of playing in this league of what is open versus what's not open, what does timing look like versus waiting on things, when is it time to try to extend versus taking what might be there. The completion percentages, we talked about the sack numbers very early in the year and talking about that's not solely on the offensive line, and talking about the run game not solely being on the offensive line. The completion percentage is also not solely on the quarterback. There's other areas where, as an offensive unit, we need to improve and help them out. And then there's some areas there where we can take completions and find completions that are accessible. And then we got to finish the play at other spots. So, we want to be efficient, but we also want to be able to create explosives, which he's done a nice job of. And finding that balance is something as a young player that we're going to continue to work on with him.
There's been a couple of times that in games so far with him this season where he has pressed when you guys fall behind and he's trying to get you guys back in the game. So how do you find that balance between hitting the next explosive and not going too far with pressing?
Yeah, it's similar to what we talked about a week ago. I think you got to allow the defense and your eyes and your progression, bless you, take you to where the ball is supposed to be, take you where the completion is supposed to be. So I think, you're not going to get it all back in one play. And I think, I read this week, Kevin O'Connell was talking about J.J. McCarthy, and I think he was talking about, finding completions, and that's an area to improve upon and an area that he has improved upon. And so many times when we have players on the outside, players that if we get their ball in their hands, some things can be created that way. I think it's continuing to harp on those and, again, follow the defense and allow them to help dictate where the ball should end up and listen to your feet and eyes as you're working your progressions.
Hey, Tommy, your name has come up as a candidate for that Michigan job. Where does that stand?
Yeah, similar to what I said, I'm here and I'm focused on this job and focused on the improvement of our players and the improvement of our offense. And, that's really all there is with that. I'm excited to be here and working to improve our guys.
But have you been contacted by Michigan or anything?
Again, I don't want to get into, a lot of that conversation. It's really just about my focus is solely on, being the best I can for our players, for our staff, for our organization right now.
Going back to the completion percentage thing, obviously you talked about the deep accuracy and he's shown that time and again, but then besides the throwaways, right, you just misses on other things. Have you identified a fundamental that he kind of lapses to that causes him to miss the throw?
Yeah, without going into the detail here, there's certainly fundamental things when you're not – there's a difference between a physical error and a mental error, right? And, when there's physical errors, you always look at the fundamentals across any position. If a tight end misses a block, are we fundamentally doing the right things with our hands or our feet? If a receiver loses at the top of the route, are we doing the right thing fundamentally on the release or at the break point? For a quarterback, it's no different. Like, is there something with our feet? Is there something? Very rarely do you talk upper body. A lot of it, you talk, lower body, being in sync, using the right drop, putting your eyes allow you to be on time and be in rhythm. And again, like, you're a young quarterback playing in this league, like, there's going to be some ups and downs there. And, as often as we can, we want him to feel confident and comfortable. And when he does and he lets it rip, he's as accurate as you'd want. That's one of his greatest strengths, is his accuracy. It's just about getting, sometimes putting the mental side and the physical side together so that you can play on time and play free.
Did not go to the Harold Fannin well as often as he has been and develop some trust with a few other guys.
Yeah, I don't think it has a lot to do with a lack of trust across the board. I think the Harold Fannin well is a pretty good one to be at. I would say we have trust in our players. Shedeur has trust in the guys that are out there. Harold, a lot of the times you're going to find him, within the progression. And, Harold's done a nice job of winning consistently for us, as other guys have as well. So this is not like a force feed to Harold. It's just, sometimes the coverage dictates it. And, Harold's done a nice job for us.
Early on, it looked like some operational problems.
Yeah.
Was that due to weather or?
Yeah, a couple issues there. Early, you get backed up, you're far away, headset goes out. There's some things there when it's real cold. We just got to be better as a collective group. There's not one person at fault. There's not one player at fault, one coach at fault. We just got to be better as a collective group. All shoulder the blame. That starts with me, to make sure that everybody's communicating the way we need to.
We were talking to Shedeur and Jerry yesterday about some of these late rotations that a lot of teams are showing. I think that a lot of those looks that Shedeur saw in the Baltimore game kind of resurfaced against the Bears. How much of it is something that you can really prepare for? It's tough to tell what a defense is going to do post snap. So how much of it is you can prep for it? How much of it is just kind of getting a feel in game and making those adjustments and just seeing things?
Yeah, Bears certainly had some things early on that they showed that we adjusted to that they hadn't showed on film. Some of the things up front that we saw against Baltimore have resurfaced, and we have a good plan there. I thought our O-line staff did a really nice job in game. We got a pressure on the very first third down of the game, like a free pressure, and then the rest of the game we were assignment sound in where we wanted to be protectionally there. So I thought we did a nice job of adjusting to a new look. So much of what we talk about with the quarterback is where are you putting your eyes, who's your key. And if you want to simplify it as much as possible. When a defense is doing a lot of different things, you want to keep their focus pretty narrow at the quarterback position and try to find specific areas of the field that you're trying to key.
You look at the Bills' defense; their passing defense is second in the league. How can you guys utilize the run game to help open up those opportunities in the pass game and create that balance? Yeah.
Look, they do a lot of good things in coverage. They got veteran players in the back end that have been in that system a long time. Obviously, head coach is a defensive back guy by trade, and they take a lot of pride, in their ability to have a vary of coverage, to have disguise in their coverages and trying to keep you off balance. They do a really nice job there, and they focus on coverage. I think we have to find a balance. We have to find the ability to run the ball. It's kind of been hot and cold for us throughout the year, and we got to really rely on that and find ways to get Q going and allow our offense to be complementary. Like, when you can run the ball well, it really opens up a lot of things, and you can stay efficient, and it keeps you in better situations on third down. So definitely a huge point of emphasis for us.
Judkins has literally hit the wall a lot of times. There's a wall of blockers in front. But do you think figuratively he's hit a working wall too?
I don't. I think Q's been really good for us. Mentally, he's engaged. Physically, he's doing well. We got to support around him, and we got to do a good job of getting him opportunities to find seams, like we were doing there kind of in the midpoint of the year.
Off of Daniel's question, I guess a little bit, there's been a lot of commentary lately about coverage versus progression reads kind of going on around the NFL lately.
Yeah.
I'm curious from your perspective, especially having coached in college too. What do you see from a young quarterback?
Yeah.
And in terms of how do you teach that, and how do you how hard is that to sort of adjust from one to the other?
Yeah, the progression thing is interesting because I think as soon as McVay started talking about being in progressions, Stafford's played in the league how long, and if they're doing it, then the adage with a progression read for a long time was it's great for young players. You don't need to know the coverage. You're 1, 2, 3, 4. You're across the board. I think that's all true. I think where you start to really see the success of it is like guys can eliminate progressions pretty quick based on coverage. So when you have a pretty good idea of coverage and you're in a progression read, you can get to the right side of the progression pretty quickly. When you play these teams that play a lot of coverages, it gives you answers versus what you could see instead of attacking a specific coverage. And then, when you're not sure because of disguise and you're trying to pick a side or play those types of pass game concepts, then it's easier to say, we're going to start our eyes on this defender and we're going to work through it. So, there's a couple different types of read families that have gone around, but certainly, with young players, with guys that are veterans, I think those still have a lot of merit of kind of having catch-all for all the, defensive coaches are really good. They do a good job with their coverage packages, and, you want to have answers for your quarterback as often as possible.
What did you think of the incompletion of Jerry that led to that one interception when you watched it back? And this Jerry season as a whole, why do you think he hasn't been able to get closer to that production from last season?
Yeah, I think I've been pretty I love Jerry Jeudy, and I love what he brings to our group. I love what he approaches the game with. I love his commitment to football. Whether or not he's made every catch that we wanted to make, we're going to still, feature him. We're still going to work with him. We're still going to trust him. None of that on our end has wavered at all. That's why we still want to find ways to utilize his strengths. And every time the ball goes to Jerry, we have trust that it's going to be a completion, and we have trust that he's going to win. And that's what Jerry has earned with us, and we want to continue to pour into him and continue to make sure that fundamentally and mentally and the things we're asking him to do, we're continuing to bring the best out of him. And we do have trust that he's going to make plays for us moving forward.
Second deep pass to Isaiah, kind of motioned him and kind of made a change to his route. I guess from offensive staff, the offensive coordinator, just how much of that is built into the offense, and kind of was that something where even over the course of the season, you guys are giving the rookies more confidence to kind of adjust things on the fly when they see it? Yeah, we want to have a lot of trust in our guys, right? There's going to be stuff they see on the field. There's going to be stuff that happened during the game, and that's something in the quarterback room we talk about, and we talk about having a trust and communication and being able to certain looks can take you to certain things. So, I would say there's a trust level there with our players that when they feel confident in something, that as coaches and players, we're going to trust each other on that.
The fact that Quinshon's getting hit behind the line so often, and why yesterday talked about facing 6 men up front, you got to win all your one-on-one blocks. As a play caller, how do you combat that when they're obviously trying to take the run away?
Yeah, we got to be creative in ways to get Q going, right? If they're going to be heavy in certain areas, we got to find ways to access the part of the field where they're not. And against Chicago, kind of you start backed up and you go 3 and out, and then there's a swing in the game there where all of a sudden, you're off script, you're off openers, you're off what you intended to be at, and we got to find ways even within those times to continue to focus on allowing Q to. He's created a lot of explosives for us. He's carried games for us. So finding ways to continue to have him, impact the game.
So your jumbo package was obviously affected by depth in Chicago. You got guys off the street. It's tough, I guess, to integrate them into your jumbo package. But you get the fullback back now.
You love Aiden, man.
I'm just wondering if that'll help Quinshon.
Yeah, like I've said, Aiden does a great job in the things that we ask him to do. We've had some injury issues. We've had some depth issues, tight end, O-line. I do think it helps our group. We've been effective in that personnel grouping. Aiden's done a great job for us, and I'm sure that breeds confidence into those situations for the rest of the group. Aiden's got a lot of energy. He comes in the huddle, he's ready to go. He's hard-headed. He definitely instills some juice into the group when he's on the field. So we're excited to have him back. He's provided a lot of value for us this season, and it's good to get him back healthy for certain.
About that Jerry Jeudy play, he said he should have slow-balled it or something like that. What is that?
Late hands, maybe? Yeah. Not allowing the DB to know when the ball's coming, typically, is what late hands would mean. All good? Thanks, guys.
Sorry about the raspy voice, but it's that time of year. So, what's that?
You and Tony.
Yeah.
Go to a conference.
Yeah. Well, we've been actually in our defensive staff. We've been sort of back to COVID 6 feet separation, trying to keep it from spreading, because over the last few weeks we've had a lot of players and coaches sick. But drive on.
Jim, is there a comp to Josh Allen that you can draw from? Obviously, the ability of a quarterback to extend plays and run is prevalent in the league, but I mean specifically him, the body type, everything about the way he does it. Is there something you can draw from?
Yeah. Steve was a little bit shorter, but reminds me of Steve McNair, sort of circa 2002, 2003. Steve, early on, a lot like Josh, was more of a threat with his legs than he was in the passing game. And then as he developed that threat in the passing game and control and everything else, the legs never left. And Steve ran like a fullback. Josh Allen runs like a fullback. There's no, trying to grab grass and get away from stuff. He's trying to score. He's trying to run people over. But he's bigger than Steve was. To our players, he starts scrambling. It's a lot like trying to tackle Derrick Henry, because there's not a whole lot of difference in the size of those two guys. Great quarterback. He's developed every year. He's MVP for a reason. We got a work cut out for us, not just in the passing game, but also the way he uses his legs to scramble to buy time to create in the passing game, but also to run for yardage.
31 points in the last two games. What's the state of things, you think, defensively, globally?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing there, Tony, is we have to control the game by stopping the run. And we didn't do that against the Titans, mainly because we gave up two impact runs. Both of them were touchdowns. One, 65 yards. The other one, 33 or whatever it was. And then this last week it was the same thing. We didn't give up the big run. There was a 17-yard scramble, and we gave up the 14-yarder where we missed a tackle. And if you really look at it, you can parse it a lot of different ways. You can say, well, other than those two runs, we gave up 3.5 a carry. And 3.5 a carry over the course of the season is going to be pretty good run defense. What I was disappointed the most within those stats is we didn't do a good enough job controlling that run. They were able to consistently run it where we couldn't really make it one-dimensional for the passing game. When they were able to force them to drop back, we did a pretty good job in that regard. But I'd say that's probably the biggest thing in there is, and as your run game goes, generally your red zone goes. And, we have as big a challenge as we've had the whole season with the run game of Buffalo. Not just with James Cook, who's an outstanding running back that can threaten all 53 and a third of the field, and he can run with power between the tackles, but you also have to include the quarterback's legs. He's rushed for 500 and some yards also. So 1,400, 2,000 yards between the two of them. If we allow Buffalo to control the game in the run game by consistently getting yards, and like I said, like that 3.5, you could probably spin that as, boy, that was 3.5 is good run defense, but the consistency of getting 3 and 4 and 5. We had a couple streaks against Chicago where we lost like 4 snaps in a row, 5 snaps in a row, and on those 80-yard touchdown runs. And if you allow a team to run the ball that way, then they're going to be able to control the game. So I'd probably say that's probably the biggest thing for us.
Is there a reason, Jim, that it's when defense has not been as, I heard what you just said, but it was really good the first 10, 12 weeks of the season. Is it because of injuries or what?
No, everybody's got injuries. We don't look at that. Anybody that's on the field, we expect to do their job and be able to play. I think probably the biggest thing, like I said, has been the last couple of weeks has been run game. We held San Fran in pretty good check, Christian McCaffrey. Then we gave up a couple big plays against the Titans, and then last week it wasn't the big plays; it was more the consistency of the run game. And we need to be able to shed blocks a little bit better. We didn't tackle very well in Chicago game, particularly out on the perimeter, and we paid the price for it. So when it's all said and done, defenses are judged by your ability to tackle, your ability to stop drives, and a big part of that is stopping the run. So great challenge this week with Buffalo. They're the best run offense in the NFL. So if we don't get it corrected, we won't stand a chance in this game.
Not everybody's got injuries, and you have to play through them. But how much did you miss Denzel? And yesterday, he sounded like he said the plan was to play this week. What difference could he make if he did work on it?
Well, he's one of the best corners in the NFL. So, certainly, having a guy like out there not only helps in the pass game, but also can affect the run game just because of his ability to cover allows you to devote more resources to the run, right? But, guys that can't play, that's part of the business. And, the other guys have to step up. We have to come up with a good plan for them. I think we also we see how valuable Malik was to the middle of our defense, penetrating, rushing the passer, tackles for losses, those kind of things. And we need some other guys. We've had a couple injuries there. Aiden's been out for a little while, and a bunch of different stuff there. And Mason's been sort of banged up a little bit, but he's been soldiering through. But we need to replace that production also.
Miles, Garrett, the fact that you guys, whenever we talk to defensive guys, they're all excited to rally around him and help him try to get this record and all that. The fact that he is getting so close to it, does that kind of add some excitement to your unit and give you guys something to rally around and play for?
As soon as he was within 5, we all thought he could do it in that game. Because he's done that before. So, that just is what it is. But I'd say this, and this goes back to the theme that Jeff and Tony were talking about. Nobody ever sacked a run play, and you can get tackles for losses, and they can affect the game the same way. A sack for 4, a tackle for loss for 4, 2nd and 14, good. But if we don't consistently stop the run game, if we don't throw teams into 2nd and long situations and 3rd and long situations, it makes it hard to rush the passer. So we have to do our part in there. We have to, get last week we saw 3rd down, we saw screens, we saw stuff like that because everybody knows what our strengths are and how they try to combat that. And it's up to us defensively, both individually and scheme and all 11 to force teams to be able to have to drop back and pass, which would help Miles, right? If Buffalo comes out and runs it 60 times, you're not going to get any sacks. If he gets a lot of opportunities, his success rate is pretty high, and we're a pretty good pass rush team. So I like those odds, but all ties back, and that's the message. That's the message we have is we got to force teams to drop back and throw, and don't let them control the game with the run game.
I guess along those lines, Miles has very much talked about how it's not just him; it is a team effort, as you kind of alluded to. What would it just mean for that entire group to know they helped him get to that mark, especially if he gets it done this weekend at home and all those different things?
Yeah, I think everybody's concentrating on trying to get a win first and foremost. But it would certainly be nice to be able to get a win and get the record. You combine both of those, I think that's good, and certainly everybody would celebrate that, and everybody would recognize the role that each person played in it. Not just on defense, but the offensive scout team, and all the different layers that go into it. But we'll celebrate that when it happens. But the main focus this week is trying to come out with a win, and trying to trying to take away the strength of their offense, which is running the ball and Josh Allen scrambles.
Said a lot about Carson already this season, obviously, but as the season has gone on and he's continued to perform, have you seen these opposing offenses and coordinators do more to try to neutralize him or avoid him or anything like that?
Yeah, he's still productive. I mean, the middle linebacker is right in the middle of everything, so it's not like a corner where you can throw away from him, or a pass rusher that you can run away from, or you can chip to and stuff like that. It makes it a lot harder because he's right in the middle of the defense. He's played outstanding for us, and I'd also mention you guys see the injury report every week. He has a lot of times on Wednesdays and Thursdays that he's not practicing very much. He has really impressed me with his toughness and his ability to play through some injuries and some pain. That shows a lot of grit. That shows a lot of toughness, and not only do the coaches appreciate that, but his teammates appreciate that also. So coming back in a couple weeks from a high ankle, it wasn't like it was magically healed in 2 weeks. He had to really push through that, and I've been really proud of him, and I know his teammates are too. They respect that. All right, guys.